Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure. The Pybus Public Market is pleased to offer a series of unique and fun classes for the Wenatchee Valley community. Classes are taught by local volunteers with an interest and aptitude in the subjects that they teach.
My name is Dick Anderson. I'm one of the Shiba volunteers here in Wenatchee. Shiba stands for Statewide Health Insurance Benefits Advisors. It was started in 1979 by a group of citizens up in Anacortes, Washington, who asked the insurance commissioner at that time for some help understanding Medigap policies. Now, Medigap policies in those days were not standardized as they are now. So the insurance commissioner sent a person up there and met with those citizens and decided this was a worthwhile activity. And so started the Shiba program, 40 years next year, 40 years old next year. At any given time, there's somewhere between 200 and 400 volunteers around the state of Washington. And not only was it a good idea for Washington, but California was the second state to start a volunteer counseling program like this. They call it HICAP. And in the wintertime, when my wife and I go south to the California desert, I'm a HICAP volunteer counselor. That way I get to wear shorts all year long. So it is a volunteer counseling program. We don't sell anything ever. All of our services are free. We provide accurate, unbiased information to help give you the information you need to make an informed decision about things that help you with Medicare. Medicare is for people who are 65 and older, or people who are under 65 who have been deemed disabled by Social Security for 24 months or longer. Now, if you're drawing your Social Security retirement benefit when you turn 65, you'll get your Medicare card in the mail automatically. If you're not drawing your Social Security retirement benefit when you turn 65, you need to actively enroll in Medicare. And you do that by going online and doing the application online, or calling Social Security, they are the gatekeeper, or going to the Social Security office and signing up there. If you don't enroll in Medicare when you're supposed to, there can be consequences. First of all, if you are not working, if you're retired, your initial enrollment period, that is the month you turn 65, is part of your initial enrollment period, and you should enroll at that time. Unless you continue working and you're covered by your employer's group medical plan. If you are covered by your employer's group medical plan for an active employee or for the spouse of an active employee, then you can delay enrolling in Medicare Part B. You don't have to pay a premium for Medicare Part A, so it's a good thing to have, right? And so there's no penalty for late enrollment in Part A, but why not have it since you're not having to pay a premium? You've already paid for Part A in the taxes that you have paid when you were working, the Medicare taxes you've paid. You can delay enrolling in Medicare Part B until you stop being active employed or your spouse is no longer covering you with her employer or his employer's group medical plan. And then you get a special enrollment period when you can enroll in Medicare Part B without any delay in your benefits, without any late enrollment penalty, and you won't have had to pay for Part B for all that time you were covered by an employer's plan. Any questions about that so far? Yes, sir. Okay, his question was, he's still employed, he's still working, and he has an employer's group medical plan that covers him while he is working, and so he can enroll in Part A and just not take Part B. for as long as he's covered by his employer's plan. When you're getting ready to not work any longer, not be covered by your employer's plan, about 3 months before then, go ahead and contact Social Security and start your enrollment about 3 months before you want it to start. You will need to show your employer a letter from show Social Security a letter from your employer stating that you've had coverage up until that time. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Is there any advantage to paying for B2 so that you don't have out of pocket?
Well, remember how Medicare works. Medicare would be secondary to your primary insurance, and you'd be paying that $134 a month premium and not getting anything out of it.
Okay.
So I kind of say, why pay $134 out of your pocket if you don't have to? Any other question about that? Yes?
What if you're self-employed?
I'm sorry?
What if you're self-employed?
If you're self-employed, you don't have that coverage of the employer's group medical plan. So go ahead and enroll in Medicare. Pardon me?
You carry your own.
You carry your own health insurance up until the time you turn 65. And it's at 65, that's the time for you to enroll in Medicare A and B. The rules about Medicare and an employer's group medical insurance has to do with a law that was passed back in 1972 called ERISA. I know you're not interested in all that detail, but it has to do with the tax-advantaged features of employers' group medical insurance. And as an individual, you don't have that kind of legal relationship. Also, it has to do if you work for an employer with fewer than 20 employees, for instance, a mom and pop real estate office, where you have maybe 4 or 5 employees, that's not a big enough group. It has to be 20 employees or more. Good. The question has to do with Affordable Care Act plans through the Washington Health Exchange. And if you are covered by one of the exchange plans because you're not 65 or yet, please understand that when you turn 65, you should transition into Medicare. Anybody who is receiving a subsidy for their exchange plan, that subsidy comes to an end as soon as you're eligible for Medicare. And if you just like your plan so much, it's so reasonably priced that you just want to continue it rather than paying the $134 for Part B and supplements too. So, I mean, there's nothing free about it. You could incur a late enrollment penalty. That's the problem with keeping the exchange plan. They're great plans. They've done a wonderful world of good for an awful lot of people. Members of my own family have benefited greatly from exchange plans. I'm very much in favor of universal health care because, well, I won't go into all the history. I just am in favor of health care for everybody. And that's probably enough said.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
Please join us weekly for the 12th District with yours truly, Kari. Check your channel guide for times or go to NCWLIFE.com for details.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
Do you have to carry Part B? You know, that is a great question because I get this from veterans who have VA medical benefits. And I say, okay, don't take my word for it. Let me print out both Medicare and the VA's response to that question. And it goes something like this. You may not always be able to get your health care through a VA facility. And if you don't get it through a VA facility, your costs may not be paid. It's a maybe kind of a thing. For other people, I'll give you an example of retired Forest Service workers, people who have the Federal Employee Benefit Plan. Some of those were counseled when they retired years ago. They say, hey, your Federal Employee Group Health Plan is already an 80-20 plan. I mean, you have a little deductible, and your plan pays 80%, and you only have to pay 20%. That's the same as Medicare Part B, right? Well, the problem is that down the road, that 20% can get to be a big number. Because it's not just 20% of a doctor's visit anymore. You know, it gets to be 20% of outpatient hospital care and 20% of a lot of other things, chemotherapy, things that cost, you know, $5,000 at a crack. And if you don't have Part B, you can't get supplemental insurance. You can't get an Advantage plan. You can't get TRICARE for life if you're retired military. You can't get a Medigap policy. So you've got to have, pretty much got to have Part B. These folks, the clients that I've had who had this Federal Employee Group Health Plan situation now want to get Part B, but the late enrollment penalty is 10% of the current year's Part B premium for each full 12 months beyond when you should have gotten Part B that you have delayed. And for some of these people, you take 14 times $13.40. I can't do the math in my head anymore. But if you do the math, you find out that turns into quite a chunk of money to put on top of the current monthly premium. Something like 400, I don't remember the numbers we came up with. But later on in life, it can get to be a pretty desperate thing. And then if you are a late enroller, you know, if you don't enroll during your initial enrollment period, now remember if you're working and covered by an employer's group medical plan, you get a special enrollment period, right? Am I making this unnecessarily confusing? But if you don't enroll when you should, you can only enroll in January, February, March of every year. That's the general enrollment period. And then your coverage doesn't start until July 1st of that year. Medicare Part A, the hospital coverage, is on one side of the blue piece of paper there. It shows you that it covers being admitted to the hospital. After you've been in the hospital for 3 days or more, you might be discharged to a skilled nursing facility. That's if your doctor draws up a plan of care and says you need to be in a skilled nursing facility, it's all on the side A, because that's all under hospital coverage. It also covers home health care if you're discharged from the hospital and you need somebody to come to your home to give you therapy or change your dressings or any of those kinds of things. That's all covered under Part A, the hospital coverage. And it also covers blood, and it also covers hospice care if the last 6 months of your life. Now, it covers it on a benefit period. You'll notice to the right-hand side of that page, it shows you the deductible for Medicare Part A, $1,340 this year. That's for a benefit period. That's a period of time that includes your stay in the hospital, your stay in a skilled nursing facility, if necessary, and 60 days after you're discharged from the hospital or nursing facility, whichever comes later. And if you're readmitted during that 60 days for the same diagnosis or related diagnosis, you don't have a new deductible, it just extends that benefit period until you've been out of the hospital, out of the skilled nursing facility, doing okay for 60 days. Part B coverage is all the medical stuff, doctor visits, therapists, x-rays, mammograms, Tests, yeah, who said tests? Somebody said tests. Durable medical equipment, you know, if you need a cane or a walker or a special bed in your home or anything like that, that's all covered under Medicare Part B. And you have a $183 deductible this year. And then you have Medicare pays 80% of its approved amount, and you're responsible for 20% of Medicare's approved amount. Any questions about that so far?
Is there a cap?
Is there a what?
Cap
Is there a cap on your medical expenses?
on the 20% that you have to pay?
Well, it's 20% of Medicare's approved amount.
So if it was $1 million, you'd pay 200,000?
Yeah, oh yeah. However, Medicare's approved amount, you know, you only get into those big numbers when you're dealing with chemotherapy, that kind of thing, right? There is no cap on your Medicare benefits. Yes. The question was, the only out-of-pocket expense you have with Medicare is the deductibles, your premium for Part B, and whoever got a health plan for $134 a month. Nobody.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
Stay up to date with what's happening in North Central Washington. Go to the NCWLIFE community calendar at ncwlife.com.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
What if you sign up for Part B, and then for some reason down the road you decide you don't want Part B anymore? For example, if you go back to work, or you make your wife go back to work. Oh, you wouldn't do that. But you get covered by an employer's group medical plan again. You don't need to pay the Part B premium. You can opt out. And remember, as long as you're covered by an employer's group medical plan for an active employee, what do I mean by active employee? That's a person who gets up and gets dressed and goes to work every day whether they want to or not. Right, that's an active employee. As long as you're covered by an employer's group medical plan for an active employee, you're okay. When you're ready to go back to Medicare Part B, as long as you can show that you've had that coverage while you opted out of Part B, no late enrollment penalty, no problem.
What is a late enrollment penalty?
The late enrollment penalty is 10% of the current year's monthly premium for Part B times each full 12-month period that you didn't have Part B.
You don't want it.
Pardon me?
You don't want that.
No, you don't want that penalty because it never goes away unless you become eligible for an extra health program. And your income has to be pretty low to be eligible for an extra health program. So in those situations where you have an employer's plan that's kind of cantankerous, we sit down and we do the numbers. We get the calculator out. We say, okay, how much would Medicare cost you to provide a better benefit? Because in Medicare, all necessary medical expenses are covered. And if you do need pre-approval for something, you know about it right up front, and once you get pre-approval, there's no arguments later. But if your doctor says, this particular hip replacement is the best one for my client, there's no arguments about that. They don't say you have to take a cheaper implant. No, you don't get into those kinds of hassles. You know, Medicare has been just about the best health insurance around for quite a while. Yeah, you're going to like Medicare. Medicare has Parts A, B, D for drugs, and C, Part C, are the Medicare Advantage plans. Now, we've already talked about Part A and Part B. Any questions that we didn't cover while we were talking? Yes?
Just this last question on Part B, I just reading here, it talks about this, you may have to reduce under hold harmless provision.
Say that again?
The hold harmless provision?
Oh, the hold harmless has to do with the premium.
Right.
It says that if you don't get a cost of living increase 1 year, your Part B premium can't be increased. That's what the hold harmless is.
But it can be reduced in certain circumstances?
Not generally reduced. It stays the same until a cost of living increase does come through. Like we didn't get a cost of living increase for about 2 or 3 years, and then we got a 3% cost of living increase, and it wasn't quite enough to cover the increase in the cost of Part B premium. So if you think you're ever going to get ahead with the cost of living increase in Social Security, disabuse yourself of that idea right now. It's why you find a lot of older Medicare beneficiaries becoming eligible for extra help programs, because when they were paying into Social Security, it was based on a smaller income than those who are recently retiring and drawing Social Security. You'll see a huge difference. One person getting $850 a month, the next person getting $2,000 a month. And the primary difference is the person who's getting $850 a month was paying in when their monthly income was $500 a month. Yeah. So I get quite a few clients my age and older who come in and especially if a spouse has passed on, first thing we go for is, are they eligible for an extra help program? Because their incomes now are, if you've lost a paycheck, it's time to start looking for other resources. So I do a lot of that. Medicare doesn't cover everything. Doesn't cover routine eye care, doesn't cover dental, doesn't cover hearing aids or hearing exams, and doesn't cover most alternative treatments such as massage therapy or naturopaths. And it also doesn't cover medical marijuana for some funny reason, but it doesn't. Okay. It also doesn't cover long-term care. Now, people who need long-term care need assistance with activities of daily living, like getting into and out of the bathtub or into and out of bed or being able to get around the house. They need assistance, maybe bathing, that sort of thing. That's not medical care, and Medicare does not cover it. Any question about that? Now, one of our partners, I forgot to mention our partners. This program was sponsored by the Insurance Commissioner's Office, the Office of Insurance Commissioner, and by our local nonprofit organization, Community Choice, and we're partnered with Aging and Adult Care. And it's been a wonderful partnership for the last 10 years. So if you don't get your question answered by a Shiba volunteer about Medicare, if your question has to do with some of these other activities, when people get older needing assistance to stay in their homes, we got one-stop shopping for you because Aging and Adult Care is in the same building. So they do a wonderful job too.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
Have a fun video you'd like to see featured on NCWLIFE? Email us at newsphotos@ncwlife.com.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
We talked about why you must have a Part B coverage if you want to get any kind of supplemental insurance. Now here's your Medicare card. That's the old one. The new one is on the easel over here. Those are starting to arrive in people's mail. Now there are 57 million people getting those new cards, so it's going to take maybe until this time next year before they all get out. But you will be receiving it in the mail. And let me caution you, If you get a phone call from somebody who says they're calling from Medicare or Social Security or the IRS, and they just want to send you your new card, but they need to confirm your old number, hang up on them. That is a scam. It's a very active scam, and it's happened all over the country. If somebody wants your Medicare information, hang up on them. Well, unless it's me. But anybody else, hang up on them. Because you want to treasure that Medicare card. It's just like a credit card for criminals to do naughty stuff. And we are fighting against Medicare fraud continuously. And actually, the Affordable Care Act provided Medicare some very important tools to help fight Medicare fraud. I'll tell you about one of them, because you'll recognize this. You know, when you get a phone call from your bank sometime and they say, hey, I noticed that you bought a 50-inch curved screen TV in Hoboken, New Jersey this afternoon. And you say, no, I didn't. And so they catch that and do not authorize that payment. Medicare has the same kind of thing now, where if a suspicious claim comes in, it raises a red flag, and instead of paying it first, like they used to have to do, and then chasing the crooks later after they're gone, Medicare can now put a hold on that and investigate it before they pay it. And that is saving Medicare hundreds of millions of dollars. The first year they did it on home health care, they saved $410 million in 2011 on fraudulent home health care claims. $410 million. That's a lot of money in my pocket. Actually, it's never been in my pocket. Okay, moving on. Now, once you get your red, white, and blue card, here's how you choose which way you want to go to get your Medicare benefit. Now, look on the left-hand column. That's the original Medicare, where you have Part A and Part B, and then you get a Part D plan, right, a drug plan, and then you can decide to get a Medigap policy, a Medicare supplemental insurance policy. We're going to talk about that in a minute. That's that orange or salmon-colored chart that you have there. Your other choice, well, the way the original Medicare works is you go to a doctor or a provider, and they perform a service, and they send a bill for a fee to Medicare. That's called fee for service. That's what it is. If you have a Medicare supplement, a Medigap policy, Medicare pays its part and then sends the rest of the bills on to your supplemental carrier for them to do their part. And that's how original Medicare works. If you choose Part C, that's the Medicare Advantage plan, those are local HMOs, health maintenance organizations. The concept originally was coordinated care. That is, in an organization, a local-based organization in a specific zip code area, the doctors and facilities, all of the providers in that area would coordinate your care through your primary care physician. And you would be able to have your care guided rather than going from one doctor to another doctor without any coordination among those three doctors. So the coordinated care idea for the local HMOs or Medicare Advantage plans actually does work. There are statistics to show that the coordinating care does in fact produce better health outcomes. Okay, that's an excellent question. If you have a Medicare Advantage plan and you're outside of your service area, is there any benefit for you? The answer is yes. As long as you are not outside of your service area for 90 days or longer, if you're out of your area for 90 days or longer, they're supposed to disenroll you. Pardon?
They're supposed to what?
Disenroll you from the Medicare Advantage plan. Yes, question? Snowbirds don't do it with a Medicare Advantage plan. Snowbirds do it with a Medigap policy. One of the things about a Medigap policy is you can go to any doctor, anywhere, anytime. My wife and I go down to the California desert. We need health care while they're down there. So what kind of a policy do we have? A Medigap policy, sure. What your Shiba counselor is going to try and do is get you to talk about what your needs are. See, because there is no one plan that's right for everybody. So what we try and do is provide you with enough information, comparisons of plans. In this area, there happen to be two for-profit companies, who offer 3 plans each. And there are similarities and there are differences in each of those 6 plans. And so what you want to do is sit down with a Shiba counselor, or do it at home on Medicare.gov, enter your prescription drugs in the plan finder, and go compare those Medicare Advantage plans so you can see what is right for you.
What are the 2 plans?
Pardon me?
What are the 2 plans?
The 2 companies, one is Health Alliance, and the other one is SoundPath. They're both good companies. They both put out good plans. You know, the real key to success here in our area is the quality of our medical community. We really have an outstanding medical community. You know, I've been counseling here since 2007 and in California. I hear complaints about plans all the time in California and try and help clients pick a plan they'd be happier in. I never hear those kind of complaints here. If your plan leaves the area, and this has happened before here in our valley, if your plan leaves the area, they will give you a letter guaranteeing you the right to buy any Medigap policy you want on a guaranteed issue basis. In other words, you can't be health screened out of it. So you get that, that's a federal guarantee. It's based on federal law. Did everybody get that? Okay. So even if a plan pulls out of the area, you still have protections. Are you ready to move on? Okay. Let's talk about, Medigap policies are sold by private companies, and that chart, that salmon-colored chart you have, has a list of all the companies selling Medigap policies. And if you flip it over on its back to page 6, you'll learn something about Medigap policies. The top 5 items on page 6 are the basic benefits in Medigap policies, and you can see they apply all across the chart. The benefits below that line are additional benefits, and they're not all available in all the plans. But I'll tell you how to start reading this chart. Start with Plan F. We think of as full coverage. Plan F has been the most popular Medigap policy since 1994, when these plans were first standardized. And what do I mean by standardized? That means Plan F is Plan F no matter what company you buy it from. Whether you pay the highest price or the lowest price, Plan F is the same regardless of what company you buy it from. This is the one time you can reliably buy something based on price, because a standardized plan must provide all of the benefits promised.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
Is your vehicle in need of a quick oil change or tune-up before hitting the road this summer? Stop by Quick Lube and Tune, the home of the good guys at 610 South Wenatchee Avenue.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
Now, this talks about Part D plans being optional. If you have VA benefits, prescription drug benefits, you don't need a Part D plan because they're considered to be as good. However, at some time in the future, you may want a Part D plan because the federal, the list of drugs that are approved is broader in Medicare than it is in the VA, which means that at any time in the future, you can buy a Part D plan. If you have VA prescription drug benefits, you can buy a Part D plan anytime in the future without a late enrollment penalty.
Only VA?
If you have other employer prescription drug benefits like PEBB, Public Employee Benefit Board plans for retired teachers, public employees, those are good. Federal employees, those are good. So if you have an employer-related benefit plan that includes prescription drugs, you probably do not need a Part D plan. That's what this means when it says it's optional. If you don't have an employer group medical plan with prescription drugs in it, get a Part D plan during your initial enrollment period or during the annual enrollment period, October 15th to December 7th. To get a Part D plan, you've got to have Part A and or Part B. And we talked about drug coverage through your employer's plan. This is a screenshot from Medicare.gov. And I want you to look first at the page where it says monthly drug cost comparison, and right below that it says Rite Aid Pharmacy. Everybody find that? Look up when you find that. The Rite Aid Pharmacy page. There are two prescription drug plans there. One is Cigna Health something. The other one is Aetna prescription drugs. A client came in this summer and he said, yeah, he's a long-time client. He just didn't come in last fall. And he said to me, Dick, I think I'm paying too much for my prescriptions. I said, well, let's check. Excuse me. So we checked, and he did not have the lowest price plan that he would have had if he'd come in last October to December to compare plans. He should have had a plan that cost him $800 for the entire year that covered all of his medications and his premium. That is his premium and his deductible and his co-pays, all for $800. Instead, he was paying more than $1,600 for exactly the same pills. Here's how that happens. First of all, he didn't compare, and the drug plans change a little bit every year, thinking you won't check. It's a good thing to check even if you find that the plan you have is still the right plan for you. The second thing is, look at what this person with this drug list would pay during the deductible period. See, that's about that column in the middle where it says deductible. What's he paying for a 30-day supply for those meds in that list during his deductible for Cigna Healthcare? What's he paying? Say it out loud. No, you're looking at the other side. We haven't got there yet. We're looking at the Rite Aid page. Rite Aid happens to be a standard cost-sharing pharmacy for these two plans. Look down below under Aetna, again, that middle column where it says deductible. How much is he paying during his deductible period at Rite Aid? Yeah, not cheap, is it? Now turn the page over and see what would happen if he went to Safeway, which is a preferred cost sharing plan. How much would he pay during his deductible period? 24 instead of 69. Do you see a potential savings there? Look what he would pay under that Aetna plan during his deductible. $10. You see what a difference doing a comparison can make. Now, my client said to me, he said, you know, Dick, I can't change plans in the middle of the year. And I said, no, but you can change pharmacies. Right. You can change pharmacies. Now, you know, in that folder you've got in your hand, that orange and white folder, came from the insurance commissioner's office. You find my business card in there. And if you lift and peek at the back of that business card, you'll find some helpful phone numbers. Now, I give those to my clients and to you. And I say, if you ever have a question like, are you going to the right pharmacy? You're welcome to call me and we'll check it out. It's what I do. I do it almost every day. In theory, I only counsel one day a week, Wednesdays. But in theory, I counsel almost every day. And I love doing it. It's fun to make a difference.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
For all the latest news in North Central Washington, go to NCWLIFE.com or find us on Facebook. Got a news tip? Email us at news@NCWLIFE.com or call 888-2020.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
I'm going to go back to Medigap policies for just a minute. When you go through the prices on the Medigap policies, you'll notice that if you get a plan that doesn't cover the Part B deductible, it has a lower premium. And the trick is to find a plan where the premium is low enough that you actually come out ahead by paying some things out of your own pocket. Think about that. You can save money sometimes just by paying some things like your Part B deductible out of your own pocket. Did we leave anything uncovered about Medicare Part C? The nice thing about the Advantage plans is they include prescription drugs in them, so you don't have to buy a separate Part D plan. They're just included in there. Yes?
See, at the bottom it says sub-counties don't offer Medicare Advantage plans?
That's correct.
How about Chelan?
Chelan County has currently, this year, 6 plans available. Based on your comments, I don't know what's going to be available next year. We will know about the middle of October. Yes, sir.
Can you switch between the original Medigap policies and Advantage at your enrollment?
The question is, can you switch? And the answer is yes and maybe.
Okay.
If you get a Medigap policy when you first enroll in Medicare, at any time during the annual enrollment period, you can go to a Medicare Advantage plan. If you start out enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan and you find out it's not what you thought, you have until next year, you will have until the end of March to drop out of that plan and go back to original Medicare or join a different Advantage plan. If you develop a health problem and want to change to a Medigap policy later, the Medigap insurance companies can screen you, can do a health screening. That's a legal thing to do. Just like your auto insurer can check your driving record, same concept. And they can refuse to sell you a Medigap policy unless, like this woman here said, maybe her plan is pulling out of the area. If you get that magic letter that says you have the right to buy any Medigap policy you want on a guaranteed issue basis, then you can do that, regardless of your health. I've actually thought that one of the better features of Advantage plans was that letter giving you permission to buy a Medigap policy. Because you know, with a Medigap policy, you own it. With an Advantage plan, you don't. I'm not saying that Advantage plans aren't good. They are good. I am also saying there is no one plan that is right for everybody. So try and find a plan that works for you. That's what we try to do. Okay, Advantage plans during the annual enrollment period, yes?
So on the Advantage plans, if you are out of the area,
If you're out of the area,
say you're across the country and you come to a medical emergency, you're out of network,
yes?
so do they pay less instead of paying at 80%? Do they pay like 50% like some insurance companies?
Well, your plan will, you will be covered for urgently needed care and emergency care anywhere in the United States. And there will be a copay, just as there is if you go to emergency care or urgently needed care here. Be no different if you're out of the area, as long as you're out of the area temporarily. I had a client who was in an Advantage plan and decided to spend the winter in another state, quite a ways away. And he needed some special care, and he contacted his plan. They said, come home, we'll take care of you. So he called me in California and he said, I don't want to go home, what's my option? So I said, well, you can disenroll because you're out of your plan service area and you can buy a Medigap policy. And that's what he did. Yes?
What happens if you're abroad?
If you're what?
Abroad.
Out of the country. Most Medigap policies have foreign medical coverage. They'll pay 80% of anything that Medicare would cover if it occurred in the United States. If you're in an Advantage plan, you should check with the plan, but I will tell you this from my own experience. If you're taking a tour like, you know, a cruise or a 15-day trip in China or something like that, get the health insurance that goes with your adventure. Because there are things that travel medical insurance cover that health insurance doesn't cover, such as if you lose a crown and you need to have a crown put back on. Medicare doesn't cover that, but your travel insurance will. If a person has lower income and lower financial assets, now your home and one car and your personal possessions, those are exempt assets. They're primarily looking at, do you have a car and a motorcycle and a motorhome? You know, that's not going to swim. But if you're a low-income individual and you have one car, which you use to get to and from the doctor's office, and your income is below that $1386, you may be eligible for a program that would pay your Medicare Part B premium, or if it's below $1,000, you could get your Medicare Part A and B deductibles and copays taken care of. And I love doing those applications. If you have a friend or a neighbor or somebody that you think might be interested, have them give me a call, make an appointment, come in, let's do an application.
Are you wanting high-speed internet but don't have access to PUD fiber? Try Sky-Fi high-speed wireless internet from LocalTel. Call 888-8888 today.